This evening's vlog is a little bit different to what I normally do. What I normally do is a commentary on the law. This is really more of a social commentary on what I actually think of our thoughts and the way we use language surrounding disabled people. And what I was thinking about specifically is, think of going, and this is for all of you, this is for those of you, I want to hear both of your voices from both sides of the fence. So those of you with disabled children and those of you without. If you've got a child, I've got a mixture of both disabled and children without a disability. Now, if I go to Ellie's parents' evening, Ellie hasn't got a disability. She's 3 years old, for those of you that haven't seen her on Facebook. I go along to her parents' evening at nursery. I want to know that she's making the best outcome. I want that teacher to tell me that she's meeting her potential. I want all of these things. And if she wasn't, what would be my desire? I'd want to move her. I'd want to move her to another school. Now, over the last year, as I've studied more and more and I've been to more and more hearings, put together more and more cases, what I've learned is actually the language we use surrounding disabled children is completely different to the language we use surrounding children without a disability. The law says, so much so that it's actually entrenched in our equality legislation for the children, which is frightening. You look at things like the Education Act 1996, which we still use parts of to decide which school the child will go to. We use Section 9, and the test for that is, does a school meet a child's needs? And if so, to send them there, would it be unreasonable public expenditure? Now, what it's saying is, does it cost too much? If a school meets your needs, so i.e. if a child, which for a disabled child is if you're making progress. Now, that could be any progress. That's for the judge to decide on. But with a disabled child, they're always going to make less progress, aren't they? So it could be a minuscule amount of progress, like how my Harry, he's reached 10 years old. And he can't read or write at all, really. He can just about write his name. There's no way he'd ever join it up. He doesn't even seem to know what a word is and that it's broken up into letters. Now, if Harry had had extra therapy, it probably would have been considered unreasonable public expenditure, but it would have been the best outcome for him. Would I want the best outcome for him the same way that I would do for Ellie, my child without a disability? Yes, of course I would. But entrenched in the law, it says that parents of disabled children, the local authority doesn't have to pay for the best outcome for them just for a school that meets their needs. Now, what that can mean practically is, for a child who's non-verbal, is no speech therapy. For a child that's unable to hold a pencil, it means no occupational therapy. Now, when you think of that, that's pretty frightening, isn't it? That you actually look at the equality legislation we have for our children, and entrenched in that is we are told not to expect the same opportunities for our disabled children as we do for our children that don't have a disability. I was just wondering, clearly that doesn't fit. You're all getting an idea of what I'm like. Clearly that doesn't sit right with me. I've said a million times this year, when people say, do you think something's unjust? I say, the law is not just, it's not unjust, it's not for me to decide. The law is the law, and it just is. And that is what I've always said. Now, actually looking at our equality legislation, that's not just, is it? That's not just at all, that we expect our children without a disability to have the best outcome and to make the best progress, or we change schools. But we're told for disabled people not to expect the best outcome. And I just want to know what all of you think. If you agree with me, you disagree with me, that's fine. Post your comments underneath. I just wanted to put it out there and for us to be discussing it. So go, let me know